Welcome to the Winner's Circle, a podcast about the Averitt culture and what makes our team unique. Don't forget to subscribe on your podcast app of choice. And now, your host of the Winner's Circle, Amos Rogan.
Hey, welcome everybody to the Winner's Circle. We got a very special guest today, one that I think if you've been around any time at all, you will know his name. He has been so integral in what we do from a safety standpoint and just been able to guide us and lead us through so many different things as our industry has changed. So please welcome Mr. John Walton. John, thanks so much for coming on.
Well, thank you, Amos. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today and chat with you.
Yeah.
And thank you for the kind words. But I'm looking forward to talking today and speaking about Averitt and about maybe what I've done and share some lifetimes at Averitt.
Yeah.
It seems like 40 years is a lifetime. So
it can be.
It can be. Yes.
It can be. You know, John is just recently retired from the team, and after a very long and illustrious career and respectable career at that. But I want to kind of start back at the beginning. I know you're originating in Memphis. That's where you started with us, and that's kind of where you're from as well. But kind of start us out there to where we can kind of get to today.
Okay. Of course, I was a military baby, if you will, and was born in Millington Naval Air Base. And then my dad was transferred to Cecil Field in Jacksonville for a little while. And then he was able to come back and retire in Memphis. And that was in 56. And so I lived in Memphis from 56 till I came to corporate in 1991. When I started with Averitt Express, I was going to Memphis State, which is now University of Memphis. I was a late person to go to college. I was 31 years old. Mm-hmm. So I had driven a couple of years prior for another carrier, my father-in-law, and I decided I wanted to do something other than run over the road. And of course, my wife had been on me about, why don't you go to school? You were going to go to school out of high school, but you didn't. And so I took her advice and started going to school. And then I started working part-time, driving for other carriers. And I was able to come on board at Averitt as a part-time driver. And so I drove part-time and did other duties, dock, picked up late freight because I come in after school, deliver late freight, pick up late freight, and then unload my trailer. If the trailers were still there, the outbound trailers, load those. If not, trap my freight. So that was basically what I did for 3 years.
And how did you learn of Averitt in Memphis?
I worked part-time at another carrier. And the service center director at that carrier, it went out of business, and he came to Averitt as the service center director. So I knew him driving part-time at a previous carrier. Mm-hmm. And he and I happened to meet out somewhere, I can't remember where, and talked about how's it going? Are you getting enough hours? Because I needed the hours being a full-time college student.
Sure.
And he said, well, I'm now with a company called Averitt Express. We're the kind of the new kids on the block in Memphis. Why don't you come see me and let's talk?
Yeah.
So I came that Monday after class and sat down with him, and we talked about it. And he said, "Hey, I'll work around your school schedule. We've got plenty of freight, plenty of work right now. And I'd love to have you on board." And I said, well, it sounds like a great deal because now I know I don't have to live by the telephone when I get home. We didn't have cell phones back then. So you had to live by the landline, and that is not fun.
Yeah.
It's, waiting for the phone to ring, or you call and do we have anything? And they go, no, not yet. I'll call you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, when you go to school as a adult, you have a family and you need that income. So
sure.
It was a blessing to run into that guy and have the opportunity to have some stable everyday work, and I enjoyed that. But that was kind of my walk to get to Averitt when I came in 1984. As a matter of fact, March of '84. So this month is 40 years total. Wow. For me.
So what was the first truck you ever drove at Averitt? What kind was it?
Well, we had some Averitt vehicles in our fleet, but we had a lot of rental trucks too. Mm-hmm. And it was a cab over Freightliner, and it was rough. You couldn't let out
one or two gear shifts.
Huh?
1 or 2 gear shifts. You got a high and a low.
The one that I drove, I think was, it had a splitter. Yeah. So it was.
So it was a coordinated dance inside the cab just to drive the thing down the road.
If you let out on the clutch easy, it would buck, and you'd think the dash was going to come off. So you either had to let the clutch out, or you had to push the clutch in. Yeah, one or the other.
Yeah. So obviously, you were a city driver and worked your way through school driving for us in Memphis, and then, as you said, in 1991, you made the move to corporate, and that was primarily in our safety department, right? So, what intrigued you about getting involved on the safety side of things?
That's a very good question. I didn't really intend when I started with Averitt to be at Averitt, but as I started working and doing the things that I was doing, and I could tell that Averitt was a different place, because mm-hmm. I had been at 4 other carriers before I came to Averitt, and by having that exposure, which I think was excellent, it allowed me to understand and appreciate where I am now. I mean, my dispatcher, I'd give him, for example, my school schedule, and we'd work around it. And I mean, how great is that? Yeah. And some days, if you've been to college, you have lab days.
Sure.
And that just messes up a day.
Yeah.
Really does. It's a 2:00 class or something. But Averitt always worked around it. So as I did that, when I went full time, I stayed in the driving ranks and had the opportunity to train. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a great way to give back. So I was a driver trainer, and I was actually doing that in road tests before I was full time, because come in the afternoon, hey, can you take this gentleman out on a road test? Here's the form. Here's how you do it. Taught me how to use it. And so I was doing that already, and then, maybe deliver freight too, because that way they wouldn't tie up a full-time driver who was, trying to deliver freight as well.
Sure.
So I got to meet John Grant. At that time, he was a safety director, and we just got to chatting because we were talking about road testing, and I was asking him questions about the road test, and am I doing it correctly? Is this what you want? And that type thing. And we hit it off. And the next thing you know, I get a call, or they call me in the office, and they say, hey, John's on the line and want to talk to you. And it's okay. He said, how about doing some regional safety training in the western part of the state? We had a lot of service centers in Tennessee at the time.
Yeah, we did.
The Martins, the Dyersburgs, and a lot of them, Mayfield. Mm-hmm. And so they sent me the material, and I read it and looked through it, and then called John back and made sure I understood the material. And so on a Saturday, I would go teach a class somewhere.
I'm glad you said that, because that kind of leads me into my next question for you is you got into safety, you're at the corporate office now. You started out, as you said, in a driver, but in a driver training type of role eventually through your walk. Once you got to corporate, how did using that experience of being a driver trainer, how did that help you in being able to understand where we needed to provide more support and coaching opportunities for our drivers moving forward?
When I first came to corporate, my title was safety development leader. Mm-hmm. And my leader at the time was Scott Wolf, and he sat me down and said, hey, here's some things that I need you to do right now. we need a hazmat training program for our drivers and staff, doc. We need a right to know training program, and we need a forklift training program. We kind of don't have those right now, or we're not sure where they are. And it was more hands-on at the time. Right. And so I focused on that first. But secondly, then we started working through the safety documents, the road test, all the things that are needed for a qualification file, a DOT qualification file.
Sure.
And the neat thing about doing those type of things and being in compliance with FMCSA is if you do everything that's in the regulations and you teach and train that to your drivers, you'll have a safe driver. It's very interesting. If you embrace it and do what's in there, yeah, it's a compliance thing. If you're going to be inspected, yes, it's a compliance thing. But it's also a safety thing. Because if you're doing your hours of service, following those rules, you're rested. That's the purpose of the hours of service rules, be well rested and ready for your day.
Well, and I know I've sat through many meetings with you on a variety of different subjects that we've encountered over the years. And you've always been, in my opinion, the authority on what the rules and regulations say. I mean, if something comes up, John would easily say, well, per the FMCSA, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going, how do you know this? But you've created such a name for yourself in the industry, but you've also been able to put together a lot of peers throughout the industry from other carriers. But one of the things that I've always thought was just so smart for you to do and for you to lead and put our company and our team in a position to do was partner with law enforcement and being able to get them in, get their opinions on certain situations, learn from them and some of the things that they have been faced, and also be open to allow them to utilize our facilities for their own personal training. Talk to us a little bit about where you felt like it was needed and necessary and where you felt like we could gain something from that partnership.
That was a unique thing. As I did my walk, I was encouraged, which was great, to get engaged in the transportation seminars industry, American Trucking Association, Tennessee Trucking Association. I've also worked with a couple other state associations. Thus, you get that connection with your peers. Good point on that, because when you interact with your peers, you can talk openly because it's safety. It's all about safety.
Right.
It's not a marketing thing or something or sales environment. It's all about safety.
Yeah.
And you learn from everybody, and thus doing that with the other peers, the other safety folks in the industry. I got networked with some law enforcement through those guys. And when that happened, I thought, wow, why not get engaged with the Tennessee Highway Patrol, the Cookeville Police Department, the Putnam County Police Department, and then as well as other police departments throughout South Carolina troopers.
Exactly, yeah.
And when you do that, there's a stigma out there. It was at one time that oh my goodness, don't let them in here. They might audit you.
Yeah.
And well, good. If you're open about it and you got some gaps, they're not gonna come down on you. You work together. Does this look good? Is this what you're looking for on the roadside? Is this how you need a driver to interact with you at a roadside stop?
Yeah.
And we always got compliments, Amos. It was such a blessing. We get so many compliments when we would do these co-ops. We called them co-ops with the law enforcement. They go, those Averitt drivers, they're really different. When we stop an Averitt driver, number one, we know it's going to be a good stop. And number two, they're going to follow directions. And that's the big thing that law enforcement will teach and train when you co-op with them, is that if they would just listen and follow my direction and just answer my questions, it's going to be a good stop. Now, you may have something that's out of compliance.
Right.
It can't happen,
Mm-hmm.
but it'll be a learning tool, learning experience, and they're people just like us. If you get to know the law enforcement folks, they're just like us.
Yeah.
They have families, they have a job to do, and I still, as a matter of fact, got a call yesterday from Captain Douglas. THP just called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I hadn't heard from you in a while. How you doing?" And
Retired.
I said, "Well."
That's how I'm doing.
I'm kind of my schedule's free, and I'm under new management, and check with my spouse.
That's good.
But just the fact that he called me out of the blue we had a good talk.
Yeah. Well, the safety team as a whole that we have here is a direct reflection of your longstanding leadership and all that. And I know you're extremely proud of that group, as you should be. They're a very capable and knowledgeable and supportive group to all of our associates in the field, and as well as corporate as well. But we always talk about within Averitt, and our culture is we always enjoy promoting from within and being able to put people in position to take the next step. How proud of you are of Jason Bolton in being your successor and moving the ball forward for us?
Well, Jason has been with me in the safety role for 20 years, give or take, as a safety coordinator and corporate safety manager. And Jason brings a lot of tools and a lot of knowledge to our team. Much like me, Jason was a shuttle driver, frontline leader, sales. Yep. That I can think of right now off the top of my head. So he has a lot of arrows in his quiver that are not safety related yet. And
sure.
and that's important. The more you know about everything that goes on in just our walk, Averitt walk, transportation walk, it makes you more knowledgeable, makes you better. The opportunities that you work through in those different jobs just makes you stronger.
Sure. And
you kind of understand how this thing all works together. And so Jason, he's technologically smarter than me. I struggle sometimes with my iPhone.
I was fixing to say, I've seen him work on your iPhone before, so I wasn't going to bring that up, but I'm glad you did.
Well, I went from a flip phone finally to an iPhone, and Jason, he's just good at all that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just so knowledgeable. He's real slick with the computer, creating PowerPoints, just all of that. And
he's a great communicator.
Yes, he can communicate on what level he needs to. Is it the driver? Is it the staff? Or is it the leadership in the field?
Right.
The secret to success, I think, in any job title or any position at Averitt is being able to listen to the person that's talking to you, that's calling you, and listen, and then work through the problem and be part of the solution.
Yeah.
And that when whomever it may be, and Jason has that talent as well, that when you hang up the phone with them, that type thing, it was a good experience.
Right.
It wasn't one of, oh no, I don't want to call safety. No, I want you to call safety.
Yeah.
And let's talk. And hey, I may ask you about your kids.
Yeah.
Hey, how's little Johnny doing at, baseball? I know he's doing this, or, so you talk about the family.
Yeah.
And that means a lot to someone when you talk about the work-related part, but also spend a couple of minutes, how are you doing?
Yeah.
How's your family?
You're teeing me up like crazy on my questions. So, I mean, this is making it really, really easy. And the question that I want to get to now is since you just went ahead and put that on the tee for me, is you've always been a great example of what the Averitt culture is, teamwork. And, I've seen you interact with your staff and your team and coming in of the morning and saying good morning to them and all that sort of thing. You've always treated them more like family rather than, subordinates or something like that. You've been very open and transparent in your career and allowing some folks to kind of see a peek into the John Walton outside of Averitt, type of thing. But what do you feel like is your favorite aspect of the overall Averitt culture within your 40-year career?
I think it's just personal relationships with all the fellow associates that I've come in contact with. It's amazing. We always talk about when a service center director or leader calls, it's not to say, "Hey, John, you having a good day?" There's something going on, and it usually begins with, "Hey, John, I have a driver," or "I have," and then you start the process to work through that. And the same thing with the staff. When, like you said, when I come in the morning, I make sure that I go and speak to everybody if I can that morning. If it didn't, things just didn't start popping right out of the gate.
Right.
But to speak to everyone, how you doing? Hey, how's so and so? But also, I encouraged my staff, safety coordinators. I encouraged them to always be thinking how we can do it better. There's no bad idea.
Right.
There's just good talk. Let's just have a conversation. What do you think?
Yeah.
What's on your mind and that we might need to do, or can we do better? And that goes all the way down to an admin person.
Yeah.
Just because I said or I think this is how we need to do our day, and if there's a better way to do your job, I want to know, and let's talk about it. And if it's better, let's do it.
Yeah.
Just empower all of your staff to be thinking. You just don't want to be in a rut. I don't want to call it a rut, but your day. Your day can be tough.
Sure.
We're in transportation. It's always something, and transportation. Think about this: is where we came from when I started and where we are today. It's evolving. And you need to have your staff engaged to be on the cutting edge. Or I think I heard Gary say one time, we want to be on the cutting edge. We don't want to be on the bleeding edge.
Right,
and I think that's where that came from. And so as a result, we've got to be forward thinking. I think it's a good word. It's forward thinking on whatever your job title or whatever your accountability may be, is to how can we do it better.
Right, yeah. And you've kind of alluded to that, but specifically if somebody is watching this podcast or listening to it and they're aspiring to grow, whether it's just in leadership in whatever the area they're interested in, or in particularly safety, what would be your advice to them as far as the steps that they need to take to put themselves in a position to grow?
Well, I think it's real simple. Whatever you're doing now, whatever that may be thinking about, if you want, is what can I take on extra? Or if you see a need, well, you don't look around. If you see a need, well, go ahead and try.
Yeah.
I saw something last week, and I can't remember who it was, but said that I do better work. I learn more when I make mistakes. And I thought through that, and I go, well, that's pretty smart, because by doing it, not being afraid to do it, you make a mistake or you do it, but you can reflect back and go, okay, I learned that don't do that. I learned that this was good, and you grow. So I think that's what I would like for the folks that are around me, is to go for it. If you're a frontline leader or you're a dock associate, and I'm an example of that, part-time driver, it doesn't really matter. If you see a need, hey, I can do that. Yeah. Let me try to do that. And that demonstrates to the folks around you, that your direct leadership or whomever it may be, that, hey, that guy Amos, he'll do anything. Yeah. If there's a need, hey, I'll help you break that trailer. Get in there and get dirty. When we were frontline leaders in the field, we wore shirts and ties. So you'd always have to stick your tie in your shirt, and you'd go home and your wife would look at you and go, "What did you do?"
Yeah.
Well, I got busy in a trailer.
Yeah.
And so to answer the question is always be thinking about what can I do extra or above and beyond, and people will notice. And people will notice that he's willing to do anything, and that puts you out in front, and that gets your name out there. And it's just another feather in your cap.
So obviously, with that great advice, you're going to take that good advice and going to be a part of our ambassador team, right?
Yes, I've already signed up, and I was going to. I'd heard about it. There's been the marketing team's done a really nice job of promoting that and that type thing. So. Yes, I've already signed up, and I was wanting to contribute to the Averitt Cares for Kids. That's part of the program.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm already engaged in that, and so I look forward to whatever I might be able to contribute in that process moving forward, because Averitt's my family, and it's good to be engaged.
Yeah. It is. And we want you engaged because you are a shining example of not only our culture, the growth over the years, those types of things that you've been able to achieve, and just serve as an example for so many different people, whether they're in safety or driving or anything like that or not. It's been a great career for people to strive for and emulate as far as that goes. I know that Miss Barbara has gotten a lot of things lined up for you, and I know that there's some travel going on, but tell us what else that you're going to be doing as you step into retirement.
Well, I've got a lot of projects I'm working on, and she's adding to my list, which is fun, because I like doing things with my hands, and it's just like anything else, whether it's here at Averitt or if I'm at home, to do a project and finish it. And an example, I hung an exterior door, and it was kind of mean because I have an older home, but it's kind of nice 4 days later, which a real guy could probably have done it in 2, to look back and go, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I would say my future is we have travels. We like to travel, but I may have some opportunities to consult. So I don't know what that looks like. I'm more or less right now just trying to understand retirement. I'm a rookie at retirement. And so it's like being in junior high and you're a ninth grader. We were 7 through 9 and then 10 through 12 in high school. And so you're a ninth grader, you're in baseball, you're good, you're great. You go to the 10th grade and you're a rook. You're a rookie and you're just, cannon fodder for everybody else. So that's kind of the way I am in retirement. I'm a rookie at retirement, and so I'm excited and trying to figure out, where's that going to go?
Right. Well, we're very excited for you, and we're appreciative of you in every single way. You've been a good example. You've been a good friend to me, and I appreciate that very much. And congratulations, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Folks, thanks so much for listening and for watching. We appreciate it. Share this with all of our associates and family and friends. Be blessed, be safe, and we'll talk to you next time.